All right, we're going to work on the Chapter 3 review covering sections 3.1 to 3.3. We're going to talk about parallel and perpendicular lines. We're going to talk about skew lines and then the special angle pairs that go along with those. Reminder that there are always notes here that tell you where to look in your notes, and that should, again, be your primary resource when studying for your test. This first problem asks you to sketch a line with the given properties. Be sure to include proper notation to guarantee lines are parallel or perpendicular. So I'm going to do this first diagram here with the triangle on the right. They want you to draw a line that goes through point A, so I like to put a dot on point A, and parallel to BC, so that means it has to have the exact same slant as that red line that I've drawn. So I trace it right here, and then to make sure that people looking at the diagram know that they are parallel to each other, all you have to do is put those arrows on there, and you have parallel lines. Question number 2, I want to go again through A, but now I want it to be perpendicular to BC. So it's going to go through there, and it's going to be 90 degrees to BC. So I draw that line right there. And again, to show that those are perpendicular, I put the little box in the corner. And the last one, it says that I want a line not through B or C. So these are not the points you're going to go through. I'll X those out. And it has to be perpendicular to BC. So that really means that any line that is 90 degrees to BC is okay as long as you put the box on there and as long as it does not go through B or C. Now you can try the next one with this pentagon here and give it a shot. This next section is still in the first part of our notes. We will be talking about parallel, skew, and perpendicular. Remember that parallel and skew never touch, but parallel has to be in the same plane, and skew has to be in different planes. Perpendicular is when things intersect at 90 degrees. So I'm tracing the lines, and I think the best idea is to kind of draw right on your picture. The first one here, if we take WZ across the front and YS up and down in the back, notice that YS again is in the back of the box, and WZ is in the front of the box. That makes those two lines, segments, skew because they are in different planes. The other thing that I want you to remember is that planes are never skew. They will only be parallel or perpendicular. Try those, and we'll get back to you if you have any questions. At the bottom of the page, we're going to talk about the different kinds of angle pairs that we have. Corresponding, alternate interior, alternate exterior, linear pairs, and vertical angles. Just a quick review. Corresponding angles are the angles that make the F. They're both in the same corner. Alternate interior angles are the angles that make the Z. They're between the lines, but on different sides of the transversal. Alternate exteriors do not have a special letter, but they are outside of the lines. The linear pairs are always next to each other, and the vertical angles are the angles that point at each other. When you're doing the problems, make sure that you trace the angles and look for the relationships. For example, we have angle 4 and then angle 2, and when I trace those two angles, I see that I have that X. The two angles are pointing at each other, so I know that I have vertical angles. Everything is represented there. Good luck. When you get to page 2, we're going to be applying the different kinds of angles that we have. So you're going to be looking in lesson 3.2 of your notes. And some of these calculations are very easy. The important part is your reasoning to make sure that you understand these. For question 22, if I look at these two angles right here, I see that x must equal 106 degrees because corresponding angles are always equal to each other. They make that F right there, upside down F. And then if I look at angle Y, if I trace angle Y and the 106, now I notice that I have a linear pair. So if I subtract from 180 degrees, I find out that Y equals 74 degrees. 180 minus 106. And my reason is that linear pairs equal 180 degrees. If I move over to question 26, I'm going to be using all the same reasoning, except that I have a little bit more stuff there with my x plus 21. I can do a couple things here. If I look at this, I can do the 68 and the angle with the x in there, and I notice that I have a linear pair. So I can say 68 plus x plus 21 is equal to 180 degrees because of the linear pair. Or, if I prefer, I can use 112 along with the x plus 21, and then I notice that I have the f. So I know x plus 21 is equal to 112 because they're corresponding. So for my reasoning, right here, I only need one of those. Linear pair equal 180 degrees, or corresponding angles are equal. Both of them get you to the same answer. When you're on page 3 here, this next section, we are still using all of those special angle pairs, but I just wanted to point out that you will be using the same diagram for all 5 of the questions. They give you different information each time. So for question 28, they tell you that the measure of angle 1 is 122. So when you fill that in right here, 122, then you can look for the measure of angle 2, which is right next to it. And we know that those are a linear pair. So 180 minus 122 gives you 58 degrees for angle 2 because they are a linear pair. Now, when you get to another question, you will simply erase those numbers or ignore what you have there. For example, let's say I want to do question 30. They tell me that angle 6 is 72. And then I have to find angle 4, which is up here. When I look at those two angles, I notice that I have the C. So I'm going to take 180 minus 72, which will give me 108 degrees for angle 4. And that is because they are consecutive interior angles. For the next part here, we are going to look at the diagrams and determine if the lines are parallel. This is in lesson 3.3. The one thing that you want to note is that the lines are drawn so that they look parallel, so you don't always want to answer yes because the picture looks like that. It's about the reasoning for the angles. If I look at question 33, I first trace out the angles that I have, and I notice both angles are outside the lines. That makes those alternate exteriors. And I know that alternate exteriors should be congruent. So are these lines parallel? No, they are not. Why? I'm going to write BC for because alternate exterior angles are not equal. So use your reasoning, not the diagram that's given to you, to make your decisions. Then on the last page, we have a couple different kinds of questions. This first chunk is still from lesson 3.3, deciding which lines are parallel. They will give you two angles, and then you have to either pick M parallel to N, A parallel to B, or not parallel at all. It says, question 39, that 5 is congruent to angle 3. So I trace angle 5 and I trace angle 3. And I look that I see the Z, and the one line that goes between both of those is A. That means that M and N must be my parallels because A is the transversal. So I say that M is parallel to N because alternate interior angles are equal. If you have trouble, go through and erase a little bit to make sure that you have good understanding here. I am going to go now and do question 44. It says 3 and 12 are supplementary. So I trace angle 3 and I trace angle 12 and I see the C. That means that N is the one that touches both of those. So N is my transversal, and that means in this case A is parallel to B because consecutive interiors equal 180 degrees. The last chunk of questions goes back to applying all the information that we learned. You have some examples in your notes in lesson 3.2. Although the picture looks a little overwhelming, just pay attention to the arrows and the lines that are parallel. If I look at this, I see angle X, and I see the 68. And I notice that I have a C there between two parallel lines, so I know they have to equal 180 degrees. So if I just take 180 minus the 68, I will get the measure for angle X. Turns out that it is 112 degrees. If you go back and look at the directions, it does say that you do not actually need to solve those. So it would be okay to just write X plus 68 equals 180 degrees and stop right there. It is not it's not necessary to do the extra if you don't want. The other thing that I notice here is that I have the 4y, and that also goes with the 68 next to each other. Those are a linear pair. So I know that 4y plus 68 is equal to 180 degrees. Again, if you want to finish that, you can subtract 68 and divide by 4. But we know that a linear pair equals 180. The last one that we have is the 5z plus 2. We can do a couple different things here. We did find the 112 goes right here. So that corresponds with the x. We could write 5z plus 2 equals x, or we could substitute in that x spot our 112 degrees because corresponding angles are always equal. Those would be our 3 setups for the 3 variables. That's all that you need to do. Good luck. And again, if you have trouble, talk to your teacher tomorrow. Good luck on the test.